This is a video I filmed earlier this summer when I visited Dan and Laurie of Freedom Forest Life, and they shared a bunch of fascinating edible tubers that they're growing.
So this plant that surrounds me now is a plant called yacon, and it's relatively new to cultivation in the Western world. And it's a plant that's closely related to sunflowers and Jerusalem artichokes. And it has the most wonderful, amazing, tuberous growth underneath, which are highly abundant. So it was originally developed and cultivated by the Inca people of the Andes, who would grow it on the slopes all the way down towards the Amazon. And they would traditionally grow it around the edges of their fields on the margins, and would use it more as a fruit rather than a vegetable. And it's still sold to this day in markets in the Andes in the fruit section rather than a vegetable. So in its native range, yacon can tolerate slight frost, and we found here that it can go down to -5, but crucially we put a good mulch of compost or wood chips around the base of it during those cold winter months, just to protect the rhizomes from that cold, chilling weather.
So one of the things that we love about yacon is that it gives you an amazing tuber to harvest in the middle of winter, and you can eat yacon raw, and it is the best winter crunch that you can get. So we love adding it raw to salads. And another amazing thing that you can do with this crop is actually juice the tubers and then reduce it down and make yacon syrup. And that comes out a little bit like an agave, so similar to a honey type product that we can grow on our land here, and that is absolutely amazing. And one of the good things about the syrup is it's said to be safe for diabetics to use because it responds differently in the body to what sugar does. And the other thing I really love to do with these tubers is slow roast them. They don't even need any oil on them, but they do need cooking for a lot longer than you would think.
This plant in front of me is another amazing plant from the Andes, and this is a plant called mashua, and it's related to nasturtiums, and some regard it as a perennial nasturtium. And the beautiful thing about this crop is that not only can you eat the leaves, but also it produces a beautiful underground tuber. So mashua is a bit of a climber, but it will also run and cover an area of ground. As you can see here, we're using it to suppress weeds on this bank. It's very vigorous, and it's also hardy to around about -5. We've never had a problem with it. It was also used in its traditional use by the indigenous people as a companion plant with potatoes, because it has very good insect repellent qualities.
So mashua produces a beautiful white tuber underground. It kind of looks like a gigantic grub actually. And two main ways that we like to use mashua, and you can actually eat the tuber raw. It's really good grated into something like a coleslaw, or again we roast this tuber up, a little bit of oil, takes quite a long time to cook, and you get a beautiful creamy texture which has actually got a slight aniseed flavour, I think.
This beside me is another tuber crop from the Andes, and it's one that was adapted for the highlands there, which makes it very good for our lower temperatures we have in a temperate climate. And this produces a lovely cluster of small, sometimes all multicoloured different tubers below the ground. And although we haven't tried it yet, I've also heard the leaves and the young stems are also edible as well. There are many varieties of oca which come in a range of different colours, from pinks, reds, yellows, you name it. And it's quite a nice compact plant as well, so if you have a small space, you could even cultivate these in pots.
And oca is actually my second favourite of our winter tubers. I absolutely love the bright colours that it offers in winter when everything else seems quite dull and bleak. And again, with this tuber, my favourite way to use it is just roast it up. Just throw it in the pan with your roast potatoes and it comes out absolutely beautiful. It's quite a dense, almost doughy texture, and personally I think the flavour reminds me a little bit of baked beans.
I'm really interested in tropical looking plants, and especially those which can survive year to year in our temperate climate. And the plants beside me here are cannas, and this is a cultivated variety with these beautiful flowers which have been bred more as ornamental plants for the garden. Although in my research I've found that traditional communities would actually cut the stem and eat the centre of the stems, and you can also eat the tubers underground, and these would be used as a survival crop in times of famine by the people of South America. This plant is one many people might recognise from the garden, and it's dahlia, and there's records of this plant being used again as a survival crop with its tubers being used in times of need. You can also eat the petals as well.
Jerusalem artichokes is my favourite of the rarer winter tubers, and this plant was used by people of the Americas, and as you can see it grows absolutely prolifically. We have just turned this whole bed over to Jerusalem artichokes, and we probably have enough here to feed a small army. But I absolutely love this tuber. It has a really deep, rich flavour. I love adding it to winter stews, or again roasting it with a little bit of oil and salt and pepper. It is really, really delicious, and it crisps up really lovely. You can almost get it caramelizing if you roast it for long enough.
This trailing vine you see next to me is actually sweet potatoes, and this is a crop again from much warmer climates than you would imagine growing right here in England. And this one is a crop that's often more associated with hotter and more tropical climates. Over the years we've been trialling many different varieties to find one that's more suited to our cooler temperate climate. And one that we found with excellent results is a variety called T65. We've had amazing success outdoors over the last few years, but we found last year rats and rodents were a real problem, chewing through the stems and killing the plants off. So this year we're trialling growing these in a raised bed with chicken wire underneath and on top to stop rodents burrowing in. We're also trialling a new companion planting technique with taro on another outdoor bed.
We absolutely love growing our own sweet potatoes. It is a really satisfying crop to harvest and to grow for yourself. And we use these in so many ways. Just baking them whole like you would a traditional potato is probably one of the simplest and most satisfying ways to eat sweet potatoes. We also make sweet potato curries. They can go in soups or stews. We just absolutely love this crop. And another benefit that you might not hear so much about is that you can actually harvest the young tips and use them just like you would spinach as well.
The plant next to me here is actually one of the oldest cultivated plants in the world. And one of the most common names you might know it as is taro. And this is a plant which has really provided sustenance to so many communities around the world in history over the last couple of thousand years. And this is a plant which produces a beautiful corm under the ground, and also the stems and often the leaves are also boiled and used. So it's been a learning curve over the last few years trying to adapt growing taro in our colder temperate climate, because this is naturally in a range of the tropical regions, and out there it would be propagated vegetatively by cutting the stem, harvesting the tubers and replanting the stem very commonly. Whereas here I have to store the tuber, sprout it again in the spring, a bit like potatoes, and plant it out. I've been trialling quite a few different varieties to find those that grow best in our climate. Some tend to want to grow more of a single stem and have a bigger central tuber, whereas others will have multiple stems with multiple corms under the ground like potatoes.
So this is only our second year growing taro, and I'm really only just beginning to learn how to use this amazing plant. My favourite way so far though is when Dan has harvested the tuber or the corm, we peel it and then just cube it up, and I'll part boil it and then usually throw it into a really spicy curry, and it takes on all the flavours really, really well. One thing to note about this plant is to make it edible, all parts of this plant do need to be cooked first. And that's actually one of the reasons we're trialling it as a companion plant with our sweet potatoes, to hopefully put off some of the rodents that we've experienced here, as the tuber part that grows under the ground is actually really not nice if they eat it raw.
Taro was an amazingly important plant for the beautiful indigenous people of the Hawaiian Islands, and it was actually so important it became part of their creation story. And I've heard a Hawaiian person say that taro is a social plant because, as you see from the leaves here, it repels water very much so. So it likes to be planted in groups because the rainfall that comes down will not go on the plant itself so much, but actually water its neighbours.